There's this idea I've had for a while, and it was actually one of the original ideas that, other than the Thomas Merton book, that I wanted to write the book that I was working on, and who knows, may still. But it's this idea of kind of who we are versus what we think about ourselves, and how poorly I judged myself for so long. Um, and the idea that I think I can hopefully have some evidence for who you are versus who you think you are, and combine that with this true north, core beliefs and values, and how for some reason throughout our lives we get taught this very different lesson, or instilled this very different lesson. One of the best versions I've learned about this is actually in the introduction, or maybe the first chapter, um, to the the book is escaping me right now. It's Manuel Ruiz's book, about the four. I don't know if it's truths or insights. It'll come to me here in a second. I'll say it. But it's about the be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And so, in the introduction of that book, it talks about, or maybe the first chapter again, talks about this wonderful vision in our brain, not wonderful, but makes perfect sense, about how we have this book of rules or this book of law in our brain that's either we're born with, it's innate, it's instilled in us, and we judge ourselves based on those books. None of it has to be really true. Most of it's not true. It's kind of likes and dislikes and what we're told. And because there's this book of law, there's also this internal judge. And I've talked about that before, that we're often our worst judge. And because there are these two things kind of in this triangle, there's then this victim. And kind of, so we live in this, by this book of laws and rules that isn't necessarily real or true, just kind of there. And then we judge ourselves so harshly by this, and then so we then also victimize ourselves. And the way he puts it is so tremendous. He talks about that we auto domesticate ourselves, that humans are the only animal that auto domesticates itself by doing this internal thing. It's kind of the self bondage. So it's really, if you read that book, don't skip to the initial message. Read that first chapter or the introduction, because it's so compelling. It's just so good. But that kind of leads me to this idea that for so long I sat in judgments of mistakes I made and used those as evidence that I was bad. And I used what I did as the evidence how awful I was, and I sat at that point to judge myself and prove how awful I was. And a couple of things helped me to come to this realization that I'm going to share. But one is the part of the 12th step, is that you look at your shortcomings, and that you, once you kind of look and examine what they are, you then ask them to be removed. And oftentimes this can be misconstrued and even talked about, where we work on our character defects and work on our shortcomings. And nowhere in any literature does it ask us to do that. Actually, it asks us to do quite the opposite. But we get stuck at this point where, oh, I'm working on my patience. I'm working on my intolerance. I'm working on my anger. And thereby, we're stuck in the exact problem we have, because we are not only problem focused, but we're the ones trying to do it. And we're the ones that got there in the first place. And it goes back to that Einstein quote that I always misquote, but essentially it's that the brain that developed the problem cannot also solve the problem, or the thinking that did so. Um, and so this idea, and what occurred to me was a kind of a very simple drawing here, that like if I'm lost, right? if I am here in Bel Air where I am, and I want to go to Washington, D.C., right? And I set my GPS and I'm driving. And again, I'm so sorry for my natural writing ability. If you're an artist and you're trying to learn, don't be uh, put down by how natural it is for me. So I'm in my car and I'm driving to DC, and somehow something gets messed up, and I just get a couple degrees north. Place on site, wonderful treatment center, talks about 2 degrees off or right will actually put you in the right direction, and just a couple degrees off, and here I am, and just that will take me way far from my destination. And let's say I want to go to DC, and I end up, and now I'm in Baltimore. And the first rule of being in Baltimore is get out of Baltimore, right? First rule. Now, I'm in Baltimore. So what do? I just recalibrate and go to D. I don't, oh, or some mistake was made. I don't want to be here. All right, let's go to DC. Now, instead in life, what do? I sit here at the point of my mistake and I just abuse myself for being at this mistake. I just say, what is wrong with you? What happened? Well, like, what did you do? Not for purposes of self-examination or getting it right, just for purposes of that judge and to just be in this victim, thereby staying in the problem and staying further away from the solution. So there's this other idea that, oh, not where I'm supposed to be. Oh, I was going for honesty because honesty is absolutely a core belief. However, somewhere along the way, either through a mistake, something I wanted to get away with at some point, I told a lie. Okay, mistake. Why sit at the point of the lie and say, look at what you've done? Look at how awful you are. You're a liar. My goodness, and liars are absolutely no good. We know that, right? We see that every day, how awful liars are. And so now I just sit at the point of the lie and sit in judgment and condemnation. What if I said, oh, well, that doesn't feel good to be a liar. Let's get back to truth. And rather than focusing on the lie, I just work on truth. And so it's just being solution focused rather than problems focused, strength focused rather than illness focused, and also this other, it kind of gets in this idea that there's not really these bad parts of me, they're all just parts. And so to sit in condemnation of one is to not maximize the other. And so, but here's the other part that occurred to me, is that I always thought that I was a bad person because of dishonesty. But I felt so bad about what I was doing. And isn't the feeling bad the evidence that I'm good? Isn't the feeling bad and guilty and utter shame about what I've done the very evidence that that's not who I am? Because if I was just dishonest and bad and awful, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be fine with it because that's who I am. But because it's not who I am, it makes me upset. It makes me discontent. And thereby is the only evidence I need that that's not who I am, and I am good. So rather than sitting at the part that makes me not good, I just get back to being good. And so it goes back to this idea that I don't focus on what's wrong with me, I just practice what is right. And that's not denial. That's not avoidance. That's just getting to what is my true essence and dropping the nonsense, right? Why focus on what's wrong? Just get to what's right. There's no work I need to do on dishonesty. What do I need to do? I know what's there. I know what got me there. I don't need any more awareness or insight. I just need to be honest. And I know how to do it. I don't know how to learn how to be honest. It's easy. Be honest. I know good from wrong. I know right from bad. I know a lie from the truth. But I also don't need to stay in this part where, oh, I'm awful. Because then, here's another thing. That's also a very easy reason for me to be in inaction and not do anything to get better. Because isn't that just a great excuse to not do anything? Because here I am, an awful person. Here I am stuck at the point of my illness. Woe is me, right? And as my beautiful, wonderful best friend used to say, uh, now I can just sit in the pit and not only be in the pit, but I can decorate it, right? I can hang beautiful. I can make a nice couch in the pit. I can hang artwork and just live in this pit of my own making. Thereby, it relieves me of responsibility from getting out of it. So the evidence of me being good is that I feel bad when I'm not. I don't need to work on being good. I am good. It's in me. I just need to get to the business of being it. And I don't need to focus on all the bad. For what? What am I going to learn there? There's nothing to learn. I mean, I can work on trauma. I can work on these past issues, fine. But I don't need to sit in that space and just get there. I can get there naturally today, now, and I can ask, right? That's the point of the whole step anyway, is humbly ask that these things be removed, right? All I do is ask, and I'm humble in a place where I believe it can be removed. And then I act as if it has been removed, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where I put the real practice or the pinch roll into practice, where my faith is strong and I believe it has been removed. So then I act in accordance with my belief, right? Faith without works is dead. So rather than sitting in the problem, just get to where you are going and you'll see how natural that feels, how good that feels. That's your essence. That's your core, right? That's the real stuff. That's the four beliefs. I'm so sorry that that name of the book is not remembering me. It will, but I'm sure it's not supposed to come to me. And do your own work, right? Look it up. What am I here for? I'm not your Google. Do it. So good luck.